Clarissa Hooser, welcome to In The Naad.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
I am so happy and have you and interested to hear what you say because you've sort of become a groundbreaker in the world of holistic medicine. And your story has become a national story. And I just want to say before we even start, the last time I spoke to you, you were waiting to get results to see if you would become cancer free. And I know you were very stressed out. And like the rest of your followers and the rest of the world, I learned at the same time that you are now clean and clear. So I want to congratulate you. What a tremendous feat.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, I was waiting on my last cancer marker scan results. So thankfully, those came back all normal. My liquid biopsy is normal. My scan was normal. So obviously, I'm not out of the woods. And when you're dealing with cancer, it's the long haul. You know, 5 years, 6, 7 years is when you can truly be deemed cancer free. So I'm only 2.5 years. So I'm not quite celebrating. I'm still trying to do everything that I know how. Um, but giving myself some grace and allowing myself to live a little bit more. But I really am excited to share more with you and your audience. And thank you for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. And while you will not celebrate, those around you can because we can feed you our positive energy. Would you start by telling us a little bit about your story?
Sure. So my story goes back probably 20 years ago. I struggled with my health for years. I had autoimmunity, and that there was just a domino effect, and I had chronic fatigue. My pregnancies were very difficult. I got eye problems through my difficult pregnancies. And these were all just warning signs, and my body was really struggling. And that ultimately led to a cancer diagnosis. And for for 3 years, I think it was about 3 years, I was misdiagnosed. So I found a lump and I tried to express thinking maybe it was a blocked milk duct and blood came out. So obviously I knew this was not normal. Went to my OBGYN and then they immediately sent me to a breast oncologist to be monitored. And so I was monitored and had scans, and the radiologist diagnosed it as a fibroadenoma. And we just watched it grow year after year after year. We just watched it grow. And then the radiologist, the last time I saw them, they said, it's getting large. It was almost 5 centimeters. We need to get it out now. It's a bit large. So my doctor said it's going to be an easy surgery. We're just going to pop it out, and then you'll never have to see me again. Just a simple, it will just come right out. And so I got surgery. It was 3 days later after I agreed to having surgery. They got me in, and I had surgery. And I remember just joking, with the nurses, and I was like, don't cut off the wrong breast. And I was just making all these jokes, and obviously I knew going in that this is not a major surgery, but I joked as if it was major. And I came out of surgery, and while I was in the waiting room, the doctor called my husband, and she said, it's not what we thought it was. I'm so sorry. And my husband tried to get some answers out of her, but she just seemed very closed off. She's like, we got to wait for pathology. And obviously, we didn't know what all of this, he didn't know what all this meant, but he never told me. And so
Oh,
I came out
interesting.
of recovery and I recovered for the next 2 days, not knowing that the doctor had called my husband and told him this. He was trying to protect me just in case it wasn't anything serious, and allow me the opportunity to heal without having worry. And so 2 days later, I received a phone call from the nurse, and I'll never forget her words. She said, we need to change your appointment from a post op to a pre op. And immediately I started questioning the fact that I just had surgery. Why am I going back? Why do I need to go back into surgery? I think you confused me with the wrong person. And she said, I'm sorry, we didn't get clear margins. And again, I try to push her for questions. What are you talking about? I just had surgery. Please be honest with me. Tell me what's going on. And again, she just kind of circled around and she said, it's invasive, it's very aggressive, and we need to go back in and have a second surgery. And so at that point, I knew it was cancer. There's no way I could put my body through that again. I was just recovering and I really wasn't strong enough even to go through the first surgery and now to go into another surgery back to back. I just knew I couldn't do it. So, she profusely apologized and she just said, I'm so sorry, your body tricked me. None of us saw this. And so she shared with me that it was an aggressive and very invasive breast cancer. And most cancers, they proliferate, they multiply between 4 to 6%. And that's normally measured by this Ki-67 index. It's called a proliferation index. And that's how you know how aggressive your cancer is. So 4 to 6% is the normal average for a breast cancer. Mine was 60, and we had watched it grow for 3 years. So it had spread to the lymph nodes, and I don't know where else it had spread because I stopped the all medical at that point. But so, hearing that it's aggressive and with a Ki-67 over 30%, it does it means that the cancer is spreading so much faster and it comes with a lower chance of long-term survival if you don't treat it very quickly and thoroughly. And so, my doctor immediately suggested port surgery tomorrow. I needed to come in the very next day, get port surgery. And then I felt like I was, from that moment, automatically thrown onto this conveyor belt of treatment. And it was 3 chemos with an immunotherapy called Herceptin for every 6 weeks, and then radiation, and everything just seemed urgent. And so I had an appointment with my oncologist, and he sat down with us. Really nice guy, also from South Africa. So we connected. He was very lovely gentleman, and I just went in trying to get as much information as I could. So he reviewed statistics with me and general survival outcomes. And he basically looked my husband and I in the eyes and he said, if you don't do these treatments in 3 to 6 months, your entire body is going to be riddled in tumors. And he said, based on these numbers, statistically, 1 year survival if you choose not to do anything. And so it was at that point that I felt like I was a number. I was following a standard treatment chart. And he showed me like this, and then you follow the arrow if you have HER2 positive, and you follow the arrow. And I just felt like I was in this, like I said before, just this conveyor belt of treatments. It wasn't individualized. And instead of looking at my unique circumstances and how my body might respond, it was just, this is what you need to do. And so I just remember being so fearful, and the fear was just crippling and paralyzing. I couldn't think clearly. But one thing I could think of clearly was I could visualize my future, and there was hospitals, being sick, gray, frail, pale, throwing up on the floor. But everything else was just, I was numb. And I remember at that point, I came home from that appointment and I just cried. And I get emotional about it because it was just such a moving moment for me. I just fell to my knees and I say, God, I don't know what I can do differently. For the last 20 years, I've lived a holistic lifestyle. I've cut out sugar, non-toxic living. What else can I do? I didn't know what else to do. My body was just failing me. And I was just at a point where I was like, I'm at my wit's end. I'm just lost, and I was trying to process all my emotions. And I knew deep down, I knew I didn't want to follow fear, and there was just so much fear. And I knew who the author of fear was, and I knew that I wanted to follow peace. And I made that decision from that moment. Where there's fear, I'm going to close the door and I'm going to walk away. And if there's peace, that's the path I'm going to take. And that's kind of how I was led to following following peace. And there was a scripture that really spoke to me at that time where it said, don't be anxious for anything, present your request, and his peace will guard your hearts and minds. And it will surpass all understanding. We won't be able to understand or even comprehend or even explain this peace to anyone. And I felt it. I felt that peace. I had absolutely, from that moment, no fear. And it really was a promise beyond what my mind could even grasp. And I really walked into that promise, and I laid my anxiety at the Lord's feet. And at that moment, I asked for wisdom, and I asked for him to just teach me how to heal my body. And it was a desperate plea because I didn't know how to move forward on my own. I knew that whatever I was doing it wrong, and I was getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And now I have cancer. I chose to pause. I chose to quiet the noise and to fast, not just from food, but from fear, from frantic energy, like negative vibrational pulls that cancer brings, so much negativity. And just fasting from trying to figure it all out on my own. Like, we don't have to do this on our own. We don't have to feel so alone, you know. Um, but I
Well,
go ahead.
so what I love about the story so far is a that faith guided you, and I don't know if you started getting downloads or whatnot, because I mean you're not a doctor, and so to know how to navigate this must have been an extraordinary experience for you, an incredibly courageous experience. In addition, what I think is so fascinating, and I think one of the key element to this story is detoxifying from stress.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you know, the stress and the inflammation just are food for cancer.
Right,
So the ability to do that while you're in a stage where one would think you'd be at your highest anxious
right.
anxiety level, it's brilliant. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that so many people would love to follow in those footsteps, but they don't know how.
Right. Yeah,
I mean,
you have
taking pause,
the
right?
stress,
While the
it's a negative vibration. And stress and negative emotions, they all carry this vibrational energy, and
of course they do. They lower the vibration.
they lower our cellular vibration, like fear, stress, grief. Um, but then when you start to heal, you get this shift of internal frequency. And I know we're going to be talking about frequency a little bit, but there's a big connection with your emotions and healing the body.
Yeah, let's talk about that because I absolutely believe that. There's no question that your mind, I mean, the placebo effect is a placebo effect for a reason. Our minds control our bodies. So, can you talk to me a little bit about that? About how you changed your frequency and as a result, your body rejected the cancer?
So one thing I had to do was I had to go for a special therapy because I struggle with needing self-compassion. I struggle with having a positive inner voice. So I needed help shifting my inner voice. So one thing through my studies and the education is I found a therapy called Evox therapy, and it also uses um, a type of frequency and a biofeedback. But essentially, what it does is it reframes your perception by replacing an empowering perspective. So it disconnects your emotion. So you can take a negative hurt, a trauma, thoughts, think of a person that's hurt you, and what it does is it disconnects the emotions from that trauma or that experience or that event.
Is it a machine?
It's like a machine. So you yes, it's a machine that you talk. It analyzes your voice, and it can tell your emotions based on the tone of your voice. Analyzes it and then puts some music in a pattern that you've listened to, and the therapist gives you some things to think about after hearing your thoughts, and then that helps rewire those negative pathways. And so,
So it's literally rewiring your nervous system, your neurological system.
absolutely. But that's one thing that cancer patients, they use this therapy a lot because it works so fast. After one session, you get a release. And
Really, the rewiring happens. You can feel it in
one
session.
session, I remember the first session I went to, I cried. I have an hour drive home. I cried the whole way home. And I got home and I was exhausted, mentally and emotionally exhausted. I went to bed and woke up the next morning, and it was as if I was walking on a cloud. I had this sense of emotional freedom and just mental clarity and just this weight being lifted off that I'd carried for years that I didn't even know was there. So that was a tool that I
So the
used.
machine itself was
It
transformational for
really
you.
was. It really was. It helped me a lot. I think that's one of the biggest tools that I use, that because I never dealt with my emotions. And although
Right. So you were stuffing. You were
I'm a
stuffing your
stuffer. If
emotions.
something happens,
Yeah.
it gets stuffed in there and I bottle it up. And I've learned now that in order to calm your nervous system, you have to do some emotional expression. And so the Evox really helped. I use the box
Wow.
breathing, journaling, and just crying and singing. You know, it's so easy to do, but it's so freeing, and it does really help release those emotions. So I
That was
thank
a
you
big one.
for
So that's step A. That's step A for you.
right.
And then another question that I have, and I think that a lot of people who think about your process probably have, is where does the strength come from? Because the medical system is trying to talk you out of it. I'm sure your husband and your children were scared. You know, this is a big decision and one that goes against the grain.
Mhm.
So where did that inner strength come from? Was it really the faith?
So it was definitely, the faith was a big part of it, because without the faith, I don't think I would have, I think I would have had fear, and then I would have just crippled to fear and done what the medical
Right.
system told me to do. But the faith gave me, and the pause is what gave me the mental clarity to start educating myself. I delved into research. I buried myself into books, studies, anything I could get my hands on. And it became a full
What kind
time.
of stuff were you reading?
I was reading cancer based books. So I found them. Chris Walk was one, you know, Jane McLeland. I found these people through searching online on Instagram and started burying myself in books. And then I started reading studies of different things like melatonin. I started following a scientist by the name of David Blask. And it blew me away what I was learning. And it just became my full time. I just became a relentless truth seeker. And I realized there's so
That's
much
beautiful.
misinformation out there. We're so indoctrinated, and
Oh,
much of the truth is completely concealed, and it's
can you
silenced.
tell us some of the secrets, some of the medical secrets that they keep from us? Like, give us a few ideas of like the non truths that you get when you're first
Right.
diagnosed, and how critical thinking got you past
Hmm.
that. Because it sounds like you were really on a mission to start critical thinking and self educating.
Absolutely. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to expose the truth. I wanted to bring it to the forefront. And
Well, you're doing
I
that.
wanted to also understand how cancer works and learn as much as I can so that one day I can hopefully help others, you know.
I think you already are, don't
I
you?
think I hope I am.
I mean, there are some blessings that come out of these journeys. One is that you've become, a teacher. You really are a teacher. I learned a lot when I watch your
Thank
Instagram.
you.
I think you're doing a fantastic job. So tell us some of the things that the doctors don't tell you. What don't they tell you upon diagnosis? Or what do they tell you that you think is
So they
erroneous?
don't tell you that you have time. Cancer is very rarely a medical emergency. So, for instance, if it's cancer's wrapped around a bone, fracturing one of your bones, crushing your bones, or wrapped around your windpipe and you can't breathe, or in your brain causing intracranial pressure, those are medical emergencies. You can't breathe, you're having strokes, your bones are breaking. That's if any I had any one of those things, I would immediately get radiation or some sort of chemo or something just to shrink it down really fast. So, but they don't tell you you can pause, take your time, go educate yourself, go read up about it. They don't tell you that. They rush you into thinking it's an emergency. And so I think that's where it can be dangerous because you often thrown into treatment without making the decision that's right for you, and I think they also don't look at the person as an individual, and
Yes,
you
I
become just
agree.
another number, and this is what you need to do. They didn't consider the fact that I'm a tiny person, and I at the time when I was diagnosed, I was very sick. And would chemo kill me? I think it would have. Cancer doesn't have to be a death sentence. A lot of times cancer is a warning sign. It's your body saying, uh-oh, you need to help me because things are going awry in your body. You need a detox. You need to look deeper at what's going on in your mind.
I mean, I sort of is this. Do you think this is a good analogy? I think of it as a mold that takes over your body, and so you either have to, get the vitamin D and bring in any kind of light to dry it or kill it. So starvation, lack of anxiety, lack of sugar, any of these things that are going to stop the progression of the growth of the cancer.
I like that analogy to look at it as a mold. You can also see it as a parasite. It's something that takes over your body.
Right?
It needs a
Yeah.
host. It steals your food. But yeah, it's starving it out. And I love Jane McLeland because she was a stage 4 cancer survivor. Cancer. She's a survivor now, but she learned and studied how to starve out cancer using glutamine, glucose, and fatty acids. And there's different pathways. So oftentimes that's a misconception. People say, "Oh, you have cancer." I heard that when I was diagnosed more than anything. Stop eating sugar and your cancer will go away. Well, guess what? I didn't eat any sugar. I was already trying to live a holistic lifestyle. I didn't have even sugar in my house. I never drank soda. I never ate anything with sugar. So sugar wasn't the problem for me. For me, it was my emotions. It really went deep down into my emotions made my
Right, of
body
course.
physically toxic. My emotions made my body acidic and caused
Yes.
this low oxygen environment at the micro environments of my cells. It caused all that. So that was number one, my emotions. And then it was some things that were thrown at me, like mercury toxicity and mold toxicity. And when you have that, that's what
Interesting.
causes your body truly to become toxic and truly to become acidic. And then when you have that acidity, then the parasites come in because they're trying to keep your body safe from this acidity and from these metals, and they gobble up the heavy metals. And so people are trying to remove all these parasites, but really they're still not getting to the root of the problem, which is your motions, your heavy metals, your mercury. And everybody's different. Everybody's root cause is different. But I think when you delve deep into the history of your body, you can quickly figure out what your root cause is to be able to starve cancer.
That's really powerful, I have to say. Um, and I'm keenly aware when I'm in a high stress period of what it's doing to
Mm-hmm.
my body. And so I run to the yoga or to the meditation, anything to calm what's going on
Right.
inside, which it sounds like you become proficient at doing that.
You have to. I mean, when your life depends on it, and when you realize science meeting the soul, right? You realize the body and the emotions, they're
Ah,
not
lovely.
separate. Every emotion, it sends a chemical signal. You have fear, anxiety, and that will flood us with stress hormones. When you get those stress hormones, what happens? Spikes your blood sugar, raises your blood sugar, raises your cortisol. And the flip happens when you have calm and joy and you exercising, you're moving your body, you're breathing, meditating. You also get a chemical signal of just peace, and this calm comes over you. So you really you really need to treat both the wound and the weight, when you have cancer.
There's no question. It's this is so brilliant, and I actually think people have come to realize this. I don't think this is as shocking to listeners as one would think, or it would have been 20 years ago. And I think it's not that we're saying you are the problem, you're the source of your cancer, but we do have these inputs that we have the ability to control.
Right.
And we don't realize how devastating an effect the mind can have
You
on the
don't.
body.
I mean, I blocked my past out. My I just tried never to feel it, like they never existed. I stuffed every emotion deep down, thinking that's strength. I'm good. I could move on with my life. But cancer really had a way of exposing it and making me realize I can't truly heal until I open the doors and let light in where the darkness is. And I had to heal what had hurt me, not just physically, but emotionally, not just like the physical mold and the mercury but the emotions that I'd been dealing with. I had to.
And what was that journey like? Let me ask you something. Do you think that you're a different woman today
Absolutely. I
than
have
you
so much
were
peace, and I
at the
feel
time?
I feel when my inside my heart just is filled with peace. I don't have this inner turmoil anymore that I didn't realize I was carrying. And my journey, to answer your question, was and we spoke about this when some people, when they're faced with the word cancer, they they get a new perspective.
Oh, right. The Maya
Yeah,
opens up, right? They say that upon diagnosis, suddenly all those fears that you had vanish. And it's like the Maya opens and you see the world as it truly is. And a lot of people refer to that as a very beautiful and powerful moment.
definitely see things with a different lens.
What some people's problem is they don't even know what the wounds
Right.
are. Were you fortunate enough to know what your wounds were, or was that a journey in of itself, the discovery of your trauma, or were you pretty much connected and understood what the
I
source
think
was?
for me, I was pretty connected, but for people that don't know what their traumas are, it's okay. You don't have to know to heal them.
No, you can get
So
psychedelics.
the Evox worked amazing. You
Will
don't
help,
have to
right?
know why you feel this specific emotion. You just, you feel it, and you go through the Evox therapy and you come out with a release and you feel peace. But I viewed my relationships very differently. So instead of sometimes there was disappointments in relationships. A few people that I thought would stick by me. I was very surprised when they never reached out at all when they found out I had cancer. I never heard from them. They just got silent. And in the past, I would have judged that or been critical on how they reacted.
But you realize it's them, not you.
Right.
It's their
It's
discomfort
you
with
you
yeah.
see things differently. It's a different perspective. Like you said, I realize at that moment people react differently to illnesses. And cancer in particular, it can evoke emotions of fear and anxiety, maybe causing them to avoid the situation altogether.
Of course, it's a
Absolutely.
mirror. They realize that
It
it can
can
happen
happen
to
to
anyone,
anyone.
and so they shy
Yeah,
away.
especially with
They shy
the
away. I think
statistics right now, by 2030, the statistics are one in every two people are going to be diagnosed with cancer.
right.
Mm,
You had told me that, and I was surprised. I mean, I had heard 1 in 3, which again was, just a
tragic,
tragic
yeah.
number. And then you told me tragic, and then you told me,
Mm-hmm.
1 in 2, which is
It's
just
astounding. Yeah.
astounding. It's astonishing. And I think that glyphosate might play a big factor in this as
I
well. Do
think it's
you?
it's everything, all these insults that are thrown at us. It's just we're bombarded from day to day. Glyphosates, what they're spraying in the air. Some people don't believe in that, but um,
And the
yes,
chemtrails? Do people not believe it?
some
Is that
people
still a
still believe
conspiracy
it's a
theory?
conspiracy, but also what, even the
It's
basic things. What
interesting.
are we putting on our body? What are we eating? What are we It
Sunscreens
all
and
builds up. And
exactly.
the thing is, some people have very strong constitutions. They have very strong genetics. So their bodies do
Right.
well and they can be exposed to all these threats and they just detox them and go about their day. I remember when I was a teen, I never sweat. And I was so proud of the fact that I never sweat. I would go around telling my friends, I don't sweat, I glow. And I just thought I was the coolest.
But you weren't but
I
you weren't
was sick.
eliminating any
I
of the
wasn't
toxins.
eliminating anything. I was holding on to everything. And come to find out, I carry the double gene of the MTHFR gene mutation, which prohibits detoxification. So you have to force detoxification. So anything that I was exposed from the time of birth, even in my mother's womb, to the day I was diagnosed, I held on to unless I was good at making sure I detox every day.
Right. It had become a part of your DNA. It was
It
embedded in
does.
your
And
body and in your
it
gut.
damages your
Yeah.
DNA, a lot of these toxins, and it causes mutations. So,
Which we now know that one can
absolutely.
override with a healthy
And
mind and body. So, a lot of stuff that you preach
mhm,
is that food is medicine, which I think we
mhm.
can all agree with that. So, Clarissa, would you tell us some of the treatments or that you believe have been very helpful that the doctors don't tell us about, that you find to have been significant in your
So
recovery?
the first one I would believe is EBO2 and high dose vitamin C. Those two were huge in my healing journey. EBO2 is essentially like dialysis. And you go in and you get 5 to 7 liters of your blood cleansed and oxygenated,
Oh, wow.
ozonated, pumped through different lights and put back into your body. And
Is that alternative? Is that
nothing,
considered
yes, and it's
alternative?
not covered by insurance at all, and it's pretty costly, but
Wow.
it was a treatment that I think really helped shift the needle.
So essential to the
Yes,
process.
I saw
Okay.
a doctor that did a live blood analysis, and my blood was all clumped together, it was sticky. It wasn't your blood cells are supposed to rotate to the right, and mine weren't even spinning. Mine were just kind of doing this and just still. And I had a lot of cancer cells in there, a lot of inflammation. And then I did the EBO2, but I went back to this doctor after I did the EBO2, and my cells were spinning to the right. They were just free flowing. The inflammation was gone. One treatment,
After one
one
treatment, after the
treatment,
first treatment?
no cancer cells. And what one thing that wasn't there, I didn't have, they couldn't find any white blood cells, no macrophages. And these macrophages are like the vacuums of our blood. They go around and they engulf bad particles that bacteria, viruses, and it's pretty cool to see. I have a video on my Instagram of this, my little macrophage engulfing bad, sick particles in my blood, but I had them everywhere. And before I didn't even have one. I had these little macrophages just swimming around and cleaning up my blood. So
Wow.
that treatment I try to do every 3 to 6 months because I saw that it really worked. As you know, the before and after, it's hard to argue with something like that. And it's expensive, but it works. And after the first treatment, I felt so much better as well. And then the other thing that I did was the high dose vitamin C. And when you take vitamin C just orally, sublingually, it's a antioxidant. When you take a high dose, it becomes a pro-oxidant. So it goes into fight mode and it gets inside the cancer cell, turns to hydrogen peroxide and destroys the cancer cell from within. And when you do it properly, because there's a way to do hydrogen peroxide, and I'm sorry, there's a way to do vitamin C correctly,
Vitamin C.
and that is it's an IV
Is it an
drip,
IV
but
drip?
fasting 13 hours before you go in. So your cancer cells are hungry. They're
Makes
ready for
sense.
it. Yeah. And
Makes
so
sense. Genius.
I did that 3 times a week, three high dose vitamin C's a week. And then I was doing one EBO2 every 3 months. And then I was also doing some ozone sauna. And now that I'm cancer free, I'm just trying to do a maintenance IV schedule, and I try to do one every month of just an ozone, blood ozone. So, and what that does is it oxygenates your blood, and it also goes in and it destroys bad cells and
Right.
bacteria. Yeah. So
I
those are
do
the
that
three
too.
that I would highly recommend.
I
But there's other things like the Rife machine that I used every day, and yeah,
love it. I love the
I love it. I
rife.
have
Do
it
you
at
have
home.
one
I
at
bought
home?
it. I did. So
Oh, you
this was
did?
one thing, when I
Wow.
prayed and said, God, I'm not following fear. I'm only going to follow peace. My husband was looking for a lymphatic drainage massage therapist because I had 3 lymph nodes that were
Oh,
cancerous, and I
yeah.
refused all medical treatment at that point. So I just decided I was going to just get my lymphatics moving and try to heal naturally. And my husband called this lymphatic massage therapist, and she said, "Oh, well, if she has cancer, she needs to see the doctor first." This doctor was undercover. He doesn't advertise. He's not, you cannot find him anywhere. And it was just,
Right. All the good ones are afraid. So they're all like that. It's an
yes.
underground network of these doctors who don't want any publicity. They're word of
And
mouth
he
and
was
they're
good.
good. And they're the only
Yes.
ones
And
that
he
don't
was
really
good. And
overcharge. Yes.
he said, you need two things. You need a Rife machine and you need an ionic foot bath. And he said, you can use it on your family. It's worth investments. And so we bought it. That was right in the beginning.
Love them
And I
both. Yep.
remember using the Rife machine under my arm where the lymph nodes were swollen. And I had these sharp pains when I was using the Rife. And I contacted him. I said, well, what does this mean? And he said, that's cancer dying. I could feel it, just the sharp pains. I could feel it dying.
Cancer
And so he gave
dying
me
in your body.
different frequencies that I needed to log in on my machine. And I did 2 frequencies, one in the morning, one at night. And I still do it today. I believe in the frequencies. And you can see some videos on YouTube where they've used frequencies under a microscope and you can actually see bacteria shattering. And yeah,
Explosion. Right, people don't realize that MRIs are frequency. Everything is frequency. First of all, everything is matter.
right.
Matter is all matter is frequency, as you and I both know. We just got to get
Right.
it moving and vibrating, and that's the key. Um, wow, you are so interesting. Can you tell everybody your website so they can follow you? And I don't know if you respond to DMs, but I wouldn't be surprised if people reached out for you advice, maybe the name of the doctor that
Right.
I probably don't want to say his name on this podcast, but under other circumstances, if you had a relationship with somebody, you might be more inclined
Absolutely.
to reveal it.
I'm happy to
But how
share
do
anything,
people,
and I do
yeah,
have an Instagram account. My name is Healthy Healing Her because I'm a female, her, but then I also had her too positive. So Healthy Healing Her. And I have a list of doctors that are integrative, quote unquote, oncologists. They work in the cancer department, but they're not classified as oncologists. But I have a list of them that use these modalities, but also if you have, a medical emergency, they can help you with the medical side of things as well. So they look at it from both angles. So I have a list of doctors, integrative doctors for that, and then also for mistletoe. I use a lot of mistletoe. So if anybody needs a doctor, I have doctors. I know doctors all over the world, recommended doctors. So I'm happy to share that. I really wanted to just share truth and hope with people. And I think that's why I got onto Instagram in the first place is I just wanted to whisper into people's heart that are walking a very difficult path, that you don't have to do it alone, and that there's other things out there that can help. And I just want to be able to share. And so if anyone has any questions and they're facing a very dark trial, I've been through a lot. There's nothing that will scare me or shock me, and I would love to be able to help and just share hope.
and that's beautiful because, as you and I both know, having your life on Instagram, it's very difficult. It's a daunting thing. So you really have to be passionate about what you're saying and what you're sharing. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time out of your
Mm-hmm.
day, time away from people you love, but it's a passion and it's something you feel deeply about. But, Instagram is a very hungry monster,
Yes.
and its appetite is never light. But we do it because we feel like we have a lot to share. And I think you do have a lot to share. And in your calmness and in your hopefulness and in your piousness, you are very powerful. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. You are remarkable.
Thank
I will
you.
continue to follow your journey.